45 years ago.
Well, we're happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
All right, so we are at 1:00, but I don't see our guest, so I am just going to text our guest and see what she is. Hey, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen. And then we have Sayu. Is that how you pronounce it? Siu?
Yes, hi. I always say it's like view, but with an S.
Okay.
So it's
right.
SIEW. Yes. Hi.
Kat.
Yep.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I guess I'm class
You
of
need to text
1982.
Sonia the link.
On it.
Thanks.
We're having some technical difficulties, ladies, but thank you so much for joining us. As usual, I'm kind of boring with my teas. I usually have like black with some flavor. Like I have some I found this new creamer that it's hazelnut with mocha. I think those are like the best two flavors to make. So I add a little of that with it. Yeah, so what are you guys drinking? You can put in the chat. We welcome tea drinkers. If you're not a tea drinker, we do not discriminate against coffee drinkers. We welcome our coffee drinkers as well. No discrimination here.
So are there still teas on Friday afternoons at 4 in the dorms at Simmons?
There are not.
Oh.
Is Kat, our intern, is a graduate of 2023. And had anyone told you about Simmons tea before we did this podcast?
No, absolutely not. I really didn't know that it was a thing, which is wild.
Okay, did you just text it to her phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also going to shoot her an email.
Thank you. Yep.
So my freshman year, the first Friday, somebody in my dorm came down to the tea wearing white gloves.
Nice.
Everyone else was in their bathrobes or, had the hair in curlers or whatever. So she figured it out. That was in 1973.
Wow. Hi, Stacy.
Hi. So I don't know if you can hear me.
We can.
Okay. So I was planning on not being driving, but I'm driving and I'm like, you know what? I still want to connect. So I'm a class of 1985 grad, and I live in the Washington, D.C., Bethesda, Maryland area.
So glad you're here. Thank you for coming.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, there are still people confirming. And they have the wrong link. That's the problem. All right. Well, it's always something, isn't it?
But you know what? Us women, I notice women, we work good under pressure. We have the answers. It's gonna be fun.
Thank you, darling. I love that.
Sonia's coming in now.
Okay. I'm going to start answering people.
And then should we get started since Sonia is on while you're letting the other guests in, or should I give you a few more minutes?
There's going to be a lot of them. They're all on the wrong one. Okay. So I think you can start.
Okay, so hi, Sunyu.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. So we're gonna welcome, first of all, welcome to Tuesday Tea. I am your host, Lachey Hawkins. I am the class of 2023. My last class actually was December of last year, but I got configured January of 2023. So I will be going or walking the stage this next week, actually, with my fellow classmates and with Kat as well. So yay to us, to me and Kat. Today, our host, her name is San Yu. San Yu was the class of 2008. She's a Dick Scholar graduate and Dick Scholar president of 2006 and 7. She majored in women's studies with a minor in economics. San Yu Biragwa is a narrative medicine clinician, indigenous bone healer, and adjunct professor of the Masters of Science Narrative Medicine program at Columbia University. A nonprofit executive with 15 years of experience building healthier communities, she is now the co-founder of Narrative Bridge, an innovative communications and culture firm that brings narrative medicine training to organizations, and a world-renowned expert on the intersectionality of health and spirituality. San Yu's work is driven by a core philosophy that we have the ability to heal ourselves, and that healing is multidimensional and requires and embodies integrated approach. Through narrative medicine training, indigenous healing modalities, and her integrative pause 3 method, San Yu teaches people how to heal themselves through story. More broadly, her work builds healthier communities and cultures by providing organizations with tools to actively listen, openly communicate, and create psychological safety within groups and terms. And then if you want to hear more about San Yu, we'll definitely give you her information, her website, where you can read much, much more, her titles and all the things behind her name. Is too much to discuss on today. But welcome, San Yu, to our Tuesday tea. We are so happy that you are joining us on today.
Thank you for having me. You said a lot, so please, if you want to learn more about the stuff that I do and how I show up in creating healthier communities, please reach out. I do want to take a pause because my mother will be very upset if she is not on this call. So she has taken time out of her day to send emails and text messages, and I don't think we have the right link to get here because I was in Google Chat for a long while. So
Which is her name, Susanna?
her name is Sheila Nutt, N-U-T-T.
Okay, and her email, if you don't mind saying.
Yes, her email is sheilanutt@yahoo.com. I tried to forward what I received as well. But yeah, I just have to take a moment to pause to
Yes,
make sure Dr. Nutt is online. Oh, it says she's in April.
Is she in April?
Zoom room.
Am I continuing to send the April one to people? Great.
That's what I got. I got the April one.
All right, darling. Kat, will you please, I'll take care of sending emails if you will send me one more link, because I'm obviously sending the wrong one.
Yeah,
This is volunteers in action. Volunteers.
you want me
It
to
happens.
email you this link?
Yes, please.
Okay, I got you. Give me 1 second.
On you.
Yes.
This is Chandra Miller Bell. I'm one of your cousins.
Oh.
Yes, and your mom invited me. So if I could get on, anyone should be able to.
Okay, great. I'm going to say that because she is texting me right now. So I apologize for elongating the tea today, but
We get it. We get it.
okay, Chandra, can you text her because I might be confusing her. She is trying to get on, but as she's getting on, I just wanted to say thank you for, creating this space for us to have this this conversation. It's just a snippet of the work that I have decided to give my life to, honestly, in creating healthier communities. So Lachey, thank you so much. And I feel that people will start trickling in. So feel free to, I think we can start because I know that you guys are on a time limit.
Oh, we're way past that. We're like way past
Oh,
that.
We're way past that.
We're-
Okay, then
we're
I'll
way
let
past
you
our time
lead.
limit. We're way past our time limit. But before we get into the actual discussion or the questions, did you want to emphasize more about yourself that we should know before we even get into this discussion or the interview portion of the show?
I think I said it. It's the dedication to creating healthier communities, and through my experience of health scares, through my experience of not receiving a diagnosis. Some of us are used to going to the physician and receiving the diagnosis, so thus you feel a little bit maybe more rooted in understanding what is it that's wrong. So I've had the opposite experience of not knowing what's wrong, and that has really informed why I moved into the space of narrative medicine. Death, a lot of death in my life, and experiencing that disconnect that happens with not understanding how the simplest of disease can really shake up a person's internal system. And if you're not supported from a healthcare standpoint, your mental health nor your physical health is taken care of. And that really bothered me because I lost a dear uncle of mine who was like a surrogate father. So where I am today is because of personal story. Okay, Dr. Nutt is here. I feel a lot more comfortable now. We can't start with you, Mama.
Okay, so let's get started with the question. So our tea flavor is definitely about your spirituality in healthcare, narrative medicine, and health equity for women of color. So our first question is, where you are, an adjunct professor defines narrative medicine as collaborative, person-centered care that lets a patient tell their unique experience with their illnesses or illness, and enables the medical professional to listen and bear witness to patient suffering in a way that leads to more effective and equitable care. Is the listening you do in narrative medicine different than what a psychologist or a therapist does? Like, how does narrative medicine, do they relate?
They relate, and it's different because a trained physician, a psychologist, therapist even, are training under the guise of creating safe space, psychological space. When narrative medicine is implemented effectively, it involves a type of listening known as attentive listening or deep listening. And this type of listening goes beyond simply hearing the words spoken by a patient. It focuses on understanding the patient's narrative. There's emotion there, and that underlying purpose, the meaning behind their own stories that that listening focuses on understanding and valuing the patient's stories, experiences, their perspectives. And that's all within the context of their illness or healthcare encounters. So with the therapeutic listening skill, it's gathering information more from a patient's illness perspective, we hope. However, it usually comes within the context of psychotherapy or counseling, right? So as I started to say, it involves establishing a safe and confidential space, right? So if we already know that's what is created within the narrative listening, which is attentive listening, that individual, when narrative competency and that attentive listening is used properly, all of that it fuses together, and it creates an even open space for individuals to express their thoughts, their emotions, their concerns without fear of judgment, right? So therapists using their listening skills are really there to gain insight in the client's psychological well-being and then facilitating their healing process. That attentive listening, and I also use radical listening, goes right for that empathy and compassion because you're listening to story.
Yes, that's good. I like when you said right to the listening, because you want to be empathetic too when you're giving counsel when it comes to especially healthcare. Where do you where did your own spiritual traditions and practices come into play for your patients in your work as a doula with a new mother, or when you work with healthcare professionals or teach students? How does your spiritual traditions come into play?
I'll say the word ritual.
Okay.
My rituals as a child were using affirmations and understanding how to be still, to listen, to have empathy and compassion for ourselves. And a lot of that came in through prayer. A lot of it came in through enjoying walks in the park. I've been very blessed to grow up in a neighborhood that I can walk to the park and sit by the water and watch literally, the geese and all of that stuff go on. And that was a part of my ritual, my spiritual development of connecting to nature, and that nature nurtures us. And when we really get close to the ways it makes us feel. And I hope being in nature makes most of us, if not all of us, feel some sort of connection to ourselves. And so as a person, a baby in the womb, it started there. It began before I came out into this world, that nurturing of stillness. And there's that attentive listening that I spoke about, that when narrative competency is done right, you are able to listen in such a deep way that not only are you able to understand and feel what you are feeling too, and there's that mutual understanding and connectivity that happens with the other, because I am so still and listening, attentive listening, radically listening to myself. So if something is said from the other that is uncomfortable, especially when you're teaching in these large organizations and institutions where there are a lot of different personalities, and you can pick up when your lecture is hitting, and you also can pick up when it's not. And so being able to quiet the mind and not be afraid of silence has helped me understand where I need to go in my teaching, because sometimes we forget that there are moments of pausing that are going to help us be even more effective with our lessons or with our intention. So that ritual that I developed with my mother of really learning how to be still and using affirmation. And as I got older, I started to explore and investigate and ask questions and connect to the indigenous healing modality of my ancestors in Uganda, understanding how that story really affects the way in which my body operates when I don't listen to my body, that story, that will affect my present moment. And that slowing down, that which I learned as a child, has helped me to slow down as an adult to know, oh, there's a moment here that I am not paying attention to because I don't feel good. And so all that which I do, as I said in the beginning too, in creating healthier communities, I can't do that unless I feel good. So I'm number one. So when I'm in that teaching environment, I want all of us to feel heard. And so I often start my classes with, what brought you joy today? And that is too a question that I know I picked up from my mother. I don't think that's the question she uses when she used to teach, but I know that she would ask her students, name 5 things that you're grateful for. These are things that some of us are like, really, you do this in class? Or really, you do this at, JP Morgan in a wellness workshop? Yes. These are things that which activate spaces to allow us to have the compassion and empathy for not only ourselves, but for the other.
And that's really good, because a lot of times we don't know how to slow down and be one in the present, but also, like you said, listening to your body. And a lot of times we don't listen to our bodies until we do fall sick because we've been on the go. Like this, especially this generation now, it's like a popcorn generation. We're on a go, we're on a go, we're on a go. And it's like, slow down, take a deep breath. You know, we don't take that time. And I think it's very necessary, especially to start your day off. Be present, slow down. So that's amazing. The practice of narrative medicine is very concerned. It's a concern with social justice and healthcare delivery and healing. Now, when it comes to women of color and African women especially, we are perceived to be strong, like we don't feel pain or experience pain. How would how would you find in narrative medicine, being a narrative medicine practitioner, how could women use those narrative techniques to help get our message out across physicians who are not schooled in narrative medicine and listening when a real problem occurs?
So I'm going to kind of popcorn out actually the
Okay.
different ways. So tell our story. We have to share our personal narratives, and that includes our experiences, our emotions, and the concerns that we have had with doctors in the past. So this idea of being open and honest about our health condition or the medical encounters that have impacted us is so very important. And often we're not encouraged to tell our stories. I don't know how many of you are so inclined or actually so well versed in going into the doctor's office, sitting
I'm
down
sorry,
and
1 minute. Stacy, do you mind muting your phone, please?
Oh, yes, yes. Mhm,
Thank you.
mhm.
Okay, I'm sorry.
what I was saying is, how often do you go to the physician and you sit there and you wait for them? They come in, they go to the computer, they're looking at the chart, they're kind of looking at you to be like, okay, yep, you're sitting there, you're breathing and writing in the chart. And then like, okay, so we're going to go and have, go to, Nurse Betty to go take your, blood tests and stuff. They come back, you sit down, they haven't even touched you. Have they even looked in your face and said, hi, how are you? How are you, Sunyu? How are you? What are you here for? It is so quick, right? So when we actually tell that clinician or that doctor of ours, I need to tell you a story. I want to share a story. They have to slow down. They're required to slow down. So we also don't know our power. So that means too, learning to advocate for ourselves. If you don't feel comfortable speaking off the cuff, then I say we need to write our narratives down. So we need to consider, writing down those thoughts and those feelings and experiences of our past, moments with physicians and the care that we received. Sometimes with these online platforms, we are able to actually upload on a secure online platform how we feel. What is it that we want to tell our doctors? So these written narratives are so important because it allows us not only for the doctor to gain a deeper understanding of our situation, but we in reflection are starting to see more of what we need to focus in on. And maybe sometimes that is to go down a different journey, to collaborate with not only a traditional doctor, but maybe a DO, or, in a case of a woman being pregnant, a doula, a midwife. So it also helps us really understand what we can do to advocate for ourselves, to bring in more of a cultural competency to our physicians. Now, I feel a little funky here sometimes saying this because really I have to go to the doctors and teach them how to listen to me.
Yeah.
Didn't they learn that in school?
No.
I'm going to tell you that they don't. I'm at the medical school at Columbia University. They do not teach them how to be empathetic and compassionate. It's quite the opposite. It's how to get in, how to get out, how to stand in their power of they know information that you don't know and they can make the better decisions. Well, we have to be a part of our own care. I would also say seek doctors who practice narrative medicine. I live in New York City. I go to a health center where I know they are connected with Columbia University, and also they're invested in their fellows being narrative competent. So they are connected to Columbia in some way, and that's probably easy because they're in New York City. However, narrative medicine, our department has morphed out into a certification program. So there are physicians and clinicians in the world who are narrative competent. They have the skill set. They might not have the MS, but they do have a certificate. They've gone through, rigorous training to understand the pedagogy, also the facilitation of it. And truly, that can be helpful. So you can ask those questions and you'll know really quickly if they have narrative medicine, clinicians. You can also join support groups. I think it's really important to, again, connect to community, connect with other women of color who might have similar experiences or health conditions. And being able to participate in that type of group gives that exchange of information. So then you can also to empower yourself, not just in the doctor's office, but outside.
Great, great. So while women's reproductive rights are being trampled in too many states, birthing statistics are even more staggering when it comes to Black women in the US, who are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth than women across any other race. How or what does it look like? Or also, you know what? Let me step back. I've also read too that your own birthing story coming into the world was like full of traditions and rituals. So my final question would be, what would it look like in an ideal world for a birthing room of color to adjust how we deal with inequity when it comes to pre and postnatal care? Can you paint the picture for us, the perfect, how does that look like when we don't have that issue?
So I'm going to go out and then come in. So
Okay.
Going out, we need accessible and comprehensive care, right? So every birthing mother of color would have access to high quality care, comprehensive prenatal, childbirth, postnatal, regardless of socioeconomic status or geographical location, right? So this care would be really readily available and accessible, affordable, and free from that discriminatory barriers that we know happen within certain communities, underserved communities. The major piece too here would be that cultural competent healthcare provider, and those healthcare providers would receive comprehensive training in cultural competency and be sensitive to those unique needs and values and beliefs of women of color, because we have stories to tell. We have connection to the stories of our grandparents and our grandmothers and our aunties and our uncles who have shared with us probably birthing stories of our ancestors, the people in our family. So we already have an idea, and that inclusive environment for birthing mothers is really important. It doesn't happen unless we're fostering physicians and clinicians to be really open to receiving these different narratives, cultural narratives. We also have to eliminate racial disparities. That's going to be ongoing, right? There would be a complete elimination. This is like my idea of like the perfect world, right? And so those maternal healthcare outcomes wouldn't be what they are today. Birthing mothers of color would receive the same standard of care as their white counterparts. This would result in equal rates of successful pregnancy, positive birth experiences, having doulas on site. Doulas, I wrote down this quote that I can't find, but doulas, they bring down the average amount of cesareans. The birth weight of babies are at regular birth weight when doulas are in the room. It reduces the use of pain medication, and it increases the satisfaction of the birthing person. So if we are able to see that the way that the birthing room is set up differently for everyone, then it's not just the equity of women of color, it's all women, all birthing women. It needs to be patient-centered, right? We need to prioritize this prenatal and postnatal care. We need to listen to the concerns and choices that the birthing mother has. And they need to be honored. Often they are not, especially in hospitals. And if a woman does not know how to advocate for themselves, or they don't have an advocate with them, the concerns of the birthing person and of that child are really high, because who do they have support in those very moments that life is coming into the world, right? Their life, the birthing parent's life, is changed forever, right? So we also need that holistic support, and that brings it back to doula support, midwifery, to help us, or help the birthing parent and family with resources to navigate the challenges that they might face during the prenatal and postnatal periods. And that all brings it in to that community empowerment and education. So our communities would be more empowered. There'd be more women of color with experiences to share that which they had a doula or a midwife. So they would be just the normal, right? The normal way that we know women can now schedule a C-section and schedule the day of their birth, right, of their child. It would be normal to schedule a doula to come and start with you as soon as you found out that you were pregnant. And having that long-term follow-up and support. You know, postnatal care, I don't think we talk a lot about that in that maternal child health care space as much as we need to. Yes, postpartum depression, but that postnatal care, that follow-up, that are you okay? How's your house? Are you able to stay organized, be organized? You know, are you eating enough? Are you resting enough? We need to also extend that beyond the immediate family. You know, do they have support and resources, ongoing support and resources outside of their immediate family and friends? So then we kind of get in smaller and smaller, and we need to look at policy and reforms. You know, we need more committed individuals who are interested in the research and policy reformation of experiences of the needs of birthing mothers of color. These would help eliminate some of that systematic bias and promote equity in all aspects of that prenatal care, and that is going to create even a more robust, healthier community. I will say that my own birth, I had a midwife, or my mother had a midwife. It was at home. I was with my uncle downstairs. I use myself as I, because I do really feel like I was there, maybe even before I came into the world. But I've heard this story for so many years that I do feel like I was there before. And we had family. My uncle was cooking downstairs. My mother, you know, was in a place where she was calm and in prayer and meditation, affirmations. I believe we had a neighbor who came over, I think around the right time, where, you know, my mother had someone that cared about her, you know, in the room, helping her be comfortable and push me out into the world. My father was there with music. So it was one of those very comforting and welcoming spaces. And I wish every birthing mother had that opportunity. You can create that space in the hospital. Unfortunately, I wasn't with one of my clients as she gave birth. It was a C-section, and I couldn't be there. It was just her husband. So what would it look like though? Her room, she was able to bring in flowers. She had aromatherapy. I made a beautiful book of affirmations for her that when she was, you know, starting labor, that she could repeat them, you know, over and over again. She had soft music. You can create an environment, and maybe some birthing mothers don't know they can actually change the environment of that hospital room. They can ask for the lights to be turned off and bring in not real candles, but, you know, lights and such. We can create our own environments. And I think that's a big issue within underserved communities, because we're not even creating an environment whereby a birthing mother is comfortable to ask, can I change XYZ? May I bring this with me? It's very medicalized and clinical. And so maybe one would not even think, oh, let me ask to create an environment that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you so much, Sanyu, for joining us for our Tuesday tea.
Thank you for having me.
Kat, for maybe one question, and then we can get into our announcements for next month's tea. I like your cup too, Sonia. That's cute. Your teacup.
I came prepared. I have my teacup, my blue and white teacup. Ritual. I'm all about ritual. This is my grandmother's china. So
Whoa, that's beautiful.
we brought her into the space today.
Yeah,
Any-
absolutely. I think we should just kind of open it up to any questions that anyone on the board has.
Let's do about 2 questions because we're past the time, and I see some of our guests are like 4:30. So let's just have a couple. Anybody has any questions they want to? Let's see. Let's go in the chat. Okay, Gail, you can start. You can answer your question.
So I was remembering when you were talking about setting up the room, I was remembering my first birth of a child was 36 years ago, but we were actually told to pack like comfortable socks and things like that. And I'm just wondering if it should become protocol that people should be told, bring something that you're comfortable in, bring a nice sweatshirt or fake candles or anything that you want. There could be a list of maybe suggestions that would make people feel like they were in an environment that they were comfortable in. I just remember those socks made such a difference. They got blood all over them, but who cares? They just having them nice, cozy socks on my feet. And that could really, having a list of things like that sounds like could help.
I agree. I wish that more hospitals, had that type of list. I know that the women that I work with and we have the privilege to work together because we're of a socioeconomic status to be able to have these conversations, first of all, right? To spend the time to talk about what comfy things that we can bring into the birthing room. Most women, like you said, may not know to do that. And I think it is very important to ask our physicians if they can. This is the thing, we can ask them to add these protocols. It actually goes to their monthly meeting. Oh, a patient of mine asked me if we can do XYZ. And that's where reform and change really happens at the community level. And I think the more and more we start asking for what we want, we will get that list of things that are most comfortable and comforting to women, birthing women.
Any other questions, ladies?
I don't know if this is a question, but I am a retired doctor of pharmacy, still licensed in the state of Georgia. I retired 20 years ago, but I continue to renew my license because you just never know. But I was talking with my husband, who's a psychiatrist, about narrative medicine once I heard about the T, and he wasn't familiar with the term. I think it's just so important because even when I started practicing in 1989, people would come to the pharmacy after having just left the doctor's office with questions they should have asked the doctor. And I would always say to anyone who would listen, if you're not comfortable asking your doctor a question, then you need to find another doctor. But also to write down anything that you think you want to ask a doctor about or talk with a doctor about. And I'm bringing this up because I have a brother who had a medical emergency in September, a serious medical emergency, and he's still dealing with issues as a result. But he's reasonably intelligent. It's amazing to me what he doesn't understand or doesn't know about the healthcare process. And we definitely need to educate ourselves more to help those around us. There are people who don't have anyone who can help them with dealing with maneuvering the healthcare system. And it's just so sad to me. But I can tell my brother what he needs to do. I can explain it more than once. And his response may be, okay, and he still doesn't get it. So I think what Sonia has been discussing today is just so very important for all of us. I want to know more about her work. I'm really
Of course. We're gonna
Mhm,
probably have a part two because it's so much information that
mhm,
we did not cover and go over in Sun Yu.
mhm.
She's, man, she has a lot behind her
Mm,
name. She has so much information, I think, that we haven't even scratched the surface of what
right.
we know. So if it's not too much from you, Sunny, to do a part two with us soon, we can expand on this topic, of course, and more getting to know more information, education concerning these issues.
I love that. And perhaps the part two is doing narrative medicine and having a short moment where we can actually participate in what it is that narrative competency opens up within us as a community. So absolutely, would love to.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sunny.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ladies, for joining our Tuesday tea. Before we leave, we have a guest next month. Her name is Jane Westman. She's class of 69. And that will be Tuesday, June 13th. That's next month. And she will be talking about her career nurturing writers, her passion for art and collecting, and her gift to Simmons Arts Management Program at the Art Experience Fund, beginning its second year. Also, we have a couple of announcements coming up. Our Alumni Association annual meeting is May 20th. Registration is on our homepage for our website. And our third Simmons Tea will be with Miss Jane Westman. So I hope to see you guys next month, every Tuesday, second Tuesday of the month. And we might have a break for the summer and pick back up when the fall starts for school. But I will see you ladies next month, and we will make sure that we give you the correct T link. So my apologies for that. Things happen. But have a blessed and marvelous day, and cheers to our
Thank
Tuesday tea
you.
on today. See you ladies
Yes.
next month. Have a great day.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Hi, Sheila.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
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 Gonna wait till the ladies close it out. Let's see here. Is it just us now? You have more?
I think that's pretty much it.
And there's a Nisi. I think she walked away. Okay, how do you think we did for this one?
Actually, I'm gonna stop recording. I totally forgot. Give me one second.